Okay, so you want to own a private jet. You already know the picture. Walk past the terminal, straight onto the tarmac, no security line, no boarding group, no middle seat. Wheels up when you're ready, wheels down when you decide. A machine that waits for you, not the other way around. And in the back of your mind, that quiet sentence the fractional ownership salesperson drops in minute one. Own the plane, use it when you want, and the rest of the time it earns its keep. But here's the part they never say out loud. A private jet is not an asset you own. The owner is not the customer of this industry. The owner is the inventory. And a $30 million jet doesn't cost you $30 million. It costs you about $15,000 for every single hour you're actually in the air. That's the picture in your head. Here's the problem. Here's the strange part. Almost nobody who owns one of these planes is actually in the aviation business. The money in private aviation is enormous. It is astonishingly reliable. And almost none of it ends up with the person whose name is on the tail number. You are not buying a plane. You are buying a standing obligation. And every professional in the room already knows it. A jet is not a car that flies. It's a machine that converts your wealth into someone else's income, one idle hour at a time. First, understand that private jet isn't one product. It's a ladder, and the rungs are separated by walls you can't see in the brochure. The plane you're picturing, the one that reads as serious but not as a head of state, is a mid-size or super mid-size jet. A Gulfstream G280 or a Bombardier Challenger 350. New, that's 25 to 35 million. Use 30 million as your working number. But know this now, the cost of the plane is the smallest problem you'll have. The plane is the cheap part of the equation because everything attached to it, the crew, the hangar, the maintenance, the fuel, the insurance, is priced per year, not per flight. Going bigger is not a smooth curve either. There are cliffs. The jump from a light jet to a midsize roughly doubles your crew requirement and your hangar footprint overnight. But here's the number that decides everything, and nobody puts it in the brochure. That 30 million is not what you'll actually spend. By the time the plane is yours, you'll have spent meaningfully more, before it has ever left the ground. So the first real question is, where does that extra money go? Hold that, because the answer is about to decide whether you survive. Now understand what 30 million actually buys. It is not a price. It is a deposit on a relationship. New, you're not just paying for the plane, you're paying for a delivery slot, and those can run years out. You put down a deposit, often 7 figures, to reserve a position in a production line that hasn't started on your airframe yet. During the wait, that money sits, earns nothing, and can't be clawed back if your plans change. And then the options. This is where your fixed price quietly becomes a moving target. The list price of a jet is a starting bid, not a ceiling. Interior, avionics, connectivity, range-extending fuel tanks. Every one of them is a line item negotiated individually, and a cabin management upgrade alone runs into 6 figures. But the real trap is in the contract itself. Component costs and currency both move during the build, and the escalation clauses decide in advance who eats that movement. It isn't the manufacturer. By the time the plane is actually yours, the delivered price is meaningfully above the number you told yourself. And it has never left the ground. Buying used looks smarter. This is where the first trap opens. A 10-year-old mid-size jet in good condition sells for a fraction of new. That looks like a bargain. It isn't. It's a schedule. The engines on a jet have hard hour limits. An overhaul on a pair of engines can cost $1 to $3 million. The avionics have compliance deadlines. The interior has a shelf life. The seller isn't giving you a discount. The seller is handing you a work order and subtracting the estimated cost from the sticker. So here's the question that separates buyers from victims. When you see a used jet at half price, are you looking at a deal? Or at somebody else's engine overhaul with a fresh coat of paint on it? And the financing tells you exactly how professionals view this asset. Aviation loans are shorter, carry higher rates, and require larger down payments than real estate. Because the collateral loses value every year, it can be flown to a jurisdiction where repossessing it is a lawsuit instead of a phone call, and the resale market is thin. Lenders aren't confused about what a jet is. They just charge accordingly. Now the other side of the ledger. The the part that actually decides whether owning a plane is survivable. The rule of thumb: annual running cost is about 10% of purchase price. 10% of 30 million is 3 million a year. Every year. That's before a single flight. And it exists to move one family a few hundred hours a year. Start with the crew because the crew is the real plane. You need 2 full-time pilots per aircraft. Because when one reaches his duty hour limit mid-trip, there's no calling a substitute the way you'd call a rideshare. A captain earns 150 to 250,000. A first officer 80 to 120. Add training, which is continuous and mandated. Simulator sessions, type ratings, recurrent checks. Call the crew 500 to 700,000 a year, all in, before they've logged an hour for you. And here's the thing nobody explains, because it's the sentence that kills the fantasy. That number is not a function of use. A jet sitting in a hangar in February, in the dark, with nobody on board, still has 2 pilots on the payroll, still has a maintenance program running, still burns the clock on its engine hours. Your travel calendar has nothing to do with it. So if the plane consumes money, where does the money in this industry actually live? Not in the air. The most interesting asset in the entire industry is the one you never look at: the empty seat hours. Every hour your jet sits is an hour someone else would pay thousands for. And the entire industry is built to capture that value, while the owner is built to pay for it. Look at who earns. The manufacturer earns first and earns longest. Parts, service bulletins, maintenance programs, engine programs by the hour. A jet generates manufacturer revenue over its lifetime that far exceeds what it costs to build. They aren't selling planes. They're selling a 40-year parts and maintenance subscription with a very expensive signing bonus. The FBO, the fixed base operator, the gas station of private aviation, bills every jet that lands on its concrete. The management company earns a monthly fee to run the plane for you, whether you fly 10 hours or 100. The charter broker earns a commission every time your idle plane flies someone else. So how does private jet ownership actually die? Not dramatically, almost never through a crash. Though that happens, it dies through arithmetic. Something changes on land. A business that depended on your travel collapses. A tax situation changes. Or the one nobody discusses. The 4th year is not the 1st year, and the novelty of owning a plane has a shorter half-life than the obligations attached to it. Usage drops toward 0, but costs only drop to about 75% of full. Because the pilots stay on payroll, the maintenance program runs regardless, the insurance renews, the hangar rents, the engine hours still have a calendar. A jet can't be turned off the way you park a car. So the plane now costs over $2 million a year to not be flown, and every one of those dollars buys nothing but readiness for a trip nobody is planning. Then the listing goes up. Then 12 to 18 months of what brokers call interest. Then a sale at a number unthinkable on delivery day. The owner didn't crash the plane. The plane crashed the owner's ledger. Here's the single largest line item on a private jet that most owners never see coming. And it's not controlled by the plane, the pilots, or the weather. It's controlled by who's actually using it. The moment your jet flies for anyone other than you, a friend, a company, a charter, you cross a regulatory line. Private operation versus commercial operation is a hard legal distinction, not a vibe. Commercial use changes your insurance, your crew certifications, your maintenance standards, your tax treatment. The tax write-off you claimed on a privately operated aircraft can be reopened if the plane was actually flying for hire. And the depreciation you planned on? It only works if the structure holds. So why do people keep buying when every professional in the industry knows fractional ownership and chartering win on paper? Because they're not buying a return. They're buying control. Wheels up when you decide. No shared calendar, no stranger in your seat. A private space where a conversation can happen with no ears but yours. Ownership purchases a feeling, and it does not purchase a return. Now run the honest math on the 2 outcomes. Take our $3 million a year, all in. The average owner flies somewhere between 150 and 400 hours annually. Call it 200, which is generous for private use. That's roughly $15,000 per flight hour. Now the alternative. A jet card. Buy hours on someone else's plane. Runs roughly $5,000 to $12,000 per hour, all in, with the plane there when you need it. You buy the exact hours you fly, and someone else carries the crew, the hangar, the maintenance, the insurance, the depreciation, and the eventual sale. On pure economics, ownership loses by an enormous margin, and every professional in the industry knows it. So here's the only question that matters. Same sky, same trip, same hours. Do you want to pay $15,000 an hour to be the owner, or $7,000 an hour to be the passenger? That's the gap. The only difference is whether your name is on the tail number or on a jet card invoice. So here's the honest truth underneath the most seductive machine in the sky. You pictured walking past the terminal, wheels up when you're ready, the sentence the salesperson drops in a minute one. And the wealth in this industry is real. It's just never been in the plane. The plane is the product the industry sells you, and the inventory the industry feeds on. If you're going to do it, look hard at the shape of the ledger, because the shape matters more than the size. Every large number on it, the crew, the hangar, the maintenance program, the insurance, the fuel, is charged for the plane existing, not for you being aboard. The one variable fully under your control is how many hours a year you fly, and that variable does not reduce a single line. A private jet is not an investment. A private jet is a machine that converts your wealth into other people's income. And the plane was never the business. The business is everything that isn't the plane.